You landed on the substance. I'm your host, Philip Marinello, saying welcome. If you are a longtime listener, welcome back. It's great to have you. And if you're new, glad you found us. Here at The Substance, we're looking to have conversations that help us all better appreciate goodness, truth, and beauty. Previous guests include folks like Film Spotting's Josh Larson, Esau McCauley, multi-hyphenate artist Propaganda, Tyler Huckabee, Josh Nadeau of the Sword and Pencil account, and Caitlin Shess. At the top here, I'll say I did not necessarily intend to take the last month off. It's just post-inauguration, man. Things been coming hard and fast. Family's been sick. Work has been busy. And life has been draining. So apologies that we took that unannounced little hiatus, but we are back. And I actually may have a couple more bonus episodes for you here that I'm going to try to sneak in just because I've got a lot of good stuff in the can. I've got some very exciting stuff on the calendar, and it is already we're nearly in mid-March here, which is nuts. So I've got a really fun plan for our April Fool's episode that we typically do for Substantive Cinema here. Got to get that on the books in the next week or so, but we've got the movie and got the guest set up. That should be a very fun one, and got some exciting stuff come up here. So hopefully we'll be more on track. This week, we've got editor Dave, former editor Dave, back on the show to kind of do a little bit of a topic toss-up format. This was recorded a while ago, so we do talk about, towards the end, we talk about the potential of a Kansas City Philly Super Bowl, which did end up happening. One of the most atrocious games I've watched in quite some time, but we talk about that. So I guess here's the plug for editor Dave. He genuinely really has a wonderful Substack. So it is, I believe it is substack.com/@Hallahan. That's HALLAHAN. Known him for several years. He writes well. He's got good guests. So yeah, follow him. I'm pretty sure you can do that for free. There is regular writing there. Sometimes he gets really good interviews. Sometimes he jumps on the mic himself for some thoughts. It's well worth it, and congrats to the Phillies for taking advantage of us not showing up to the Super Bowl. So great work, Philadelphia. And go check out Dave's Substack. Now, without further ado, here's my conversation with editor Dave. I think we might do Philly again this year with my movie crew.
Oh, yeah.
Movie podcast friends.
Well, definitely hit me up if you do. That's the real reason I'm coming onto this pod, is to confront you about completely ignoring me when you were right outside.
Have you ever been to the Philadelphia Film Society Theater?
I have not, no.
It's real nice.
Yeah.
I mean, real nice. It's not like fancy, but if you're a movie lover, like it's a really fun place to be.
It's a great venue for what they're seeking to accomplish with said venue. Yeah.
And they're doing well. Like they hosted us, which was great. And then they, like, as we were leaving, there was like this movie club that hosts there. They were doing like a VHS swap. And they gave us all like VHS tapes, and like we were there for a different thing. Like it was just a really good time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And we got to do not all, but I did several historical tours. It's a very history heavy city. Went up the steps, saw the Rocky statue, which is now at the bottom of the steps.
Yes.
Which does make sense logistically. I get why they did that. Hit the Rocky store. I don't think I got anything. Maybe I got like a sticker or a postcard. The Rocky merch was priced significantly. So I was like, man, I'd love to.
We try to get those out of towners, those suckers.
Yeah. But no, it was a great trip. Shout out to the 70 millimeter VHS Village community.
Yeah. So you think you guys are coming back here?
Yeah, it sounds like the future meetups, the official ones, will probably be in Philly because that's where a lot of the core people are. Not a lot, but that's where a handful of like the core people are. We got a great venue. There's a lot of great places to eat. There's great Airbnbs. So it's a walkable city. Good night. Did I put in my
I
steps
bet you did. Yeah.
for the 2 or 3 days while I was there. My
Yeah.
gosh.
Yep. Yeah, we love a good walkable city.
But yeah, that's also great though too. But like the buses, the trains, the walking, like it was wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm over here in the burbs, but I have a couple friends who live in the city proper, and it is like it's super nice. It was intimidating to me at first as like, a suburb kid, but as I've one gotten older and two gotten used to it, I'm like, no, like this, I get it. I get the
It's a
city life.
great way to be. A
Yeah.
lot of great street food, a lot of great little shops and places to pop into. We did a couple of the tours. Our tour guide was very animated. It was fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
Well, Dave, here we are again, man. It's been about a year and a half since we've had one of these check-in episodes. It's not just a check-in. We're gonna do like a light topic toss-up. It's gonna be this would be a unique format, like the editor Dave shows.
Yes, yes. No, it's good to be back. Yeah, we looked at it. Like you said, a year and a half since we've talked together on air. We've had plenty of conversations in between, especially when I was editing. But
I couldn't believe that it'd been a year and a half since that episode.
well, like you said, dude, like time is just I think probably because we're getting older, we have kids,
It's
but
true.
also COVID. Like post COVID,
Definitely.
like I just don't know, like time doesn't mean anything anymore.
Yeah, no, I say it all the time and I try even not to because it feels silly, but yeah, I'm like, was that like 1 or 2 years ago? It's like, no, that was 7. And then I was like, oh, I probably did that thing with Dave a while ago. And it's like, oh, it's a year and a half. Like we're in
Yeah,
2025 now.
it's
That doesn't
2025.
seem right.
Yeah. I'm officially like have to be careful how I sleep years old now.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, like I woke up the other day and I'm like, okay, I'm not looking left today. Like I
Yeah.
just can't do it.
Well, and the other thing that's hitting me too, my wife and I aren't huge concert people, but we've been doing more
Mm,
lately. A lot of our beloved albums are turning 15, 20,
yeah.
25 years old, and they're doing, oh, the
Yep.
20th anniversary reunion, the 25th anniversary. And I was like, how can that be?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
can that be?
It, and I still listen to all of it.
Yeah,
Yeah. Were you ever into the Used?
not really. No.
Okay. Well, they're one of the bands who they're coming my way, and they're playing the same venue 3 nights in a row, and they're
Nice.
gonna play an
Oh,
album
different. I
each night.
love that
Yeah.
so much. So, I mean, we just did, I say just with the whole time thing. I don't know when we did it. Uh,
No way to know, really.
less in the last 12 months. Um, we did the Death Cab Postal Service. They pretty
Okay.
much played through Give Up and Transatlanticism, and it was great.
Yeah.
It was great. But yeah,
That
that was
that
either
sounds like
20 or 25 years old.
I I speaking of getting older and bands, I said to my wife because when we met at a summer camp, but like our first like
It's a very good,
interaction.
cute Christian
Yeah,
story.
it I mean, yes, exactly. But I was wearing an Emery T-shirt,
Nice.
and,
Do they still
the
tour? Do they play?
they do, and
Oh,
so I got an email, I guess I'm subscribed to, like, their email list or whatever, and, the album, I'm pretty sure it's The Question, is
oh yeah, that's their big one.
yeah, and I think they're touring that, it might be 20
Dang, that's
I
probably
think
25.
I think it's their no, because I think it came out 2005.
Oh,
So I
did
think
it?
it's the
Okay, 20.
20th anniversary,
Okay.
but they're touring it. But guess how they're touring it? You won't be able to guess. I'll just tell you. They're playing it acoustic, so that's sign number 1 that we're
Interesting.
getting old in uh at a winery.
What?
Like a little wine cellar in Philly. They're doing an acoustic tour. And I'm like, "Babe, we are officially old. Our favorite band is touring one of our favorite albums, but they're doing it acoustic
They don't wanna hurt
and
their old ears.
and in a wine cellar." So,
Interesting.
yeah.
I wonder if The Question has a vinyl.
It does because I have it.
Do you?
I
I should
do.
look into
Yeah.
that.
Oh, don't you have the Deja Entendu one?
I do, yeah.
And that's the one I
Is that out
want.
of print now?
It's out of print, yeah. I, like, have seen it for, like, $90, and
Whoo.
I'd be lying if I didn't say I was tempted, but I love my wife, and she would kill me, so,
Not be happy.
no.
Emery, okay. emerymusic.com. I maybe will edit this out, maybe not. Let us see. What do we got here? Okay, these are not terribly
They're
priced.
like they're yeah, because 'cause they're pretty active, actually. They have, like I'm not involved, but, like, I think they have, like, their own, like, Twitch, like, thing, like,
Wait.
community
Live
Emory.
vinyl? It says the question live.
Oh, I
Doesn't know
have
if I want it live.
no, probably not.
Oh, that's cool of them. Okay, 35 bucks. Signed, it's a lot more, but you can just get it for
Yeah.
35 bucks, but that is live.
They're actively, like,
Mm,
printing them
I like that a lot.
because they have, like I think it's called Emery Land, but they have, like, their own, like, community, online community that they still, like, keep active and stuff.
Okay. Hmm. Maybe I'll see if the question live is on Spotify and I'll listen before I buy
Right,
because
make sure
I don't mind live albums, but like that's not the album I listened to 500 times when I was an angsty teenager.
Right, no, exactly, exactly.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, yeah, Deja Tendu, and then honestly, Give Up and Transatlanticism
Mhm.
are some of the old nostalgia vibes vinyls. Because I mean, I have a lot more of newer stuff on vinyl, not as much. I would love to get pressings of older stuff. I just haven't. I haven't done a ton of vinyl actually, frankly, just as far as like enjoying them.
Yeah,
Because we have two little kids now, and our vinyl is like in the middle of the living room. That's when the kids are awake.
right,
Not a great time. When the
yes.
kids are asleep,
Also
rarely am I in the mood to, like, spin a full album and chill out.
right, yeah. I don't know if you were planning to do, substantive shout outs at the end, but
Absolutely.
I just wrote one down because I didn't think about it
Okay.
at all, but I'll save it for
I
later.
like
Little
it.
teaser, but it has to do with
Teaser.
what we just talked about. Um,
Very cool.
so you've already said we're doing a little topic toss up, and I think
Yeah.
our first topic, I think you're gonna have more to say, so I'll walk us into it a little bit. Um, but
Walk
uh,
us in, Dave.
because that's where I have something to say is at the beginning. But I stole this from someone, and frankly, I don't remember who, but um, they were just saying that recently we had a couple big losses, same day, I think, for weird America, and not like when Tim Waltz was calling the Republicans weird, not that kind of weird. The like the Portland weird America. Um,
Cool weird, hip weird.
yeah, um, Bob Euchre
Yes.
and
I
David
heard
Lynch.
about that later.
Yeah, Bob
Um,
Euchre and David Lynch both passed away, and um, we're going to talk. We're going to hear your thoughts more on David Lynch in a second, but both guys, like there's a couple like great Bob Euchre stories. He actually played for the Philadelphia Phillies for a little bit before my time, but like those stories still like go around. That was like in the 60s, I think. But longtime announcer for the Milwaukee Brewers, but probably especially for this audience, most known for Major League
sure.
as the announcer in Major League. Uh, but yeah, so David Lynch passed recently,
Mm.
and I know you were a big fan. You covered at least one of his movies, right? The
Thus far, yeah, The Straight
Straight
Story's the
Story.
only one in the library.
That was with Tyler Huckabee, right? That episode.
That was great. Tyler Huckabee, who recently reached out to me proactively and said, "Hey, man, would love to do another one sometime with you." So
Oh
we
yeah,
are like it's such a good problem to have. And listeners and Dave, since I've got you captive audience, if anyone wants to come and join and help be a producer and editor, we've got so much good stuff in the can and potentially that yeah, I look forward to getting back up at full steam. But yeah, man, um that was a great episode. So we're gonna do another episode with Tyler, but we're also just talking about like I would like to do more David Lynch. The
yeah,
thing in the past that maybe has slowed me down, I don't think it would as much now. Like David Lynch's stuff is bizarre, and some of it has some pretty extreme content that some people might it might be a stretch for. So
yeah.
the straight story was definitely an easier sell for our audience, but they're definitely I feel like probably Elephant Man might be a good one
Mhm.
to do.
Yeah, yeah.
That's Academy Award nominated and I think winning some, but I think Elephant Man or Eraserhead may be on the horizon. And on the horizon, I mean
maybe by the end of the year. We've got, honestly, a lot of really great stuff lined up to record. So now it's just trying to slot stuff in
Right. Yeah,
going
and
forward.
you got stuff lined up, but in the can as well. So
Yeah, in the can, I've got like 4 substantive cinemas as of recording right now. I have 4 substantive cinemas, I believe, and 1 non-substantive cinema that, as of recording, it will be put out the following week. So I'm trying not to just do substantive cinemas, but it's so exciting, and I have so many cool people from various niches who are like, "Yeah, I'd love to talk movies with you."
well, and
So
frankly, like, you're by yourself now, and it's clear that movies is where, like, your passion is. I know you're into the theology and all of that stuff as well, but I think left to your own devices, movies part of me thinks you should bite the bullet and just make it a movie podcast.
well, I would love to, like, spin off substantive cinema. Like, if I had could stop time, or if I had an editor, we would probably do maybe weekly substantive cinema episodes, or maybe go every other week,
Right.
or like 3 in 1, because there are a lot of great, like, I have relationships with a lot of publishers. There's a lot of great stuff going on, and I'm sure we'll get to this later in the show. The next 4 years are gonna be pretty gnarly.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different people in various communities working on various valuable things that I want to engage with personally, get involved with, share the message of what they're doing. But yeah, I would love to do like 3 substantive cinemas, and then the last show of every month is just a substance episode with like an author or an activist or a professor or
Right.
something.
So
Um,
so with the passing of David Lynch, what uh, I mean, we you mentioned a few of his movies that maybe you'll cover or could cover, but is there like what of his work uh I don't know if favorite is even the right but
it's
word, but
hard.
like what of his work have you really enjoyed and maybe why? Like what's unique about his work that you love so much?
I mean, honestly, The Straight Story is one of my favorites. Some people who maybe know of Lynch but maybe haven't engaged deeply say, "Oh, that's like the least Lynchian movie." And like, if by that you mean it's not surreal, okay, sure, but it's very much a David Lynch movie. But I mean, I love nearly everything. Dune is fun. It's not a masterpiece, but Dune is fun, and Inland Empire is really bizarre, and I'm gonna try to give it another chance soon. Maybe try to see it in the theater. It has a couple showings in Kansas City that I'm gonna see if I can go to one. But other than Dune and Inland Empire, like, it's all top shelf, wonderful stuff. Um, I think the thing, probably honestly, just because of the expansive nature of it, like the Twin Peaks world is so wonderful. It is, it's maybe paradoxically very warm and very comforting, along with being very dark and
Mm.
very disturbing. Have you engaged with any Twin Peaks, the movie,
I
the
have
television show, or the Showtime miniseries?
I have not.
Okay.
I have a very close friend who loves Twin Peaks. He's like, you need to get into it, and started it with my wife, the first episode, and just was not. I mean, you're familiar,
Oh,
so
man.
like,
And I'll say I went on that journey too. I think I maybe talked about it on our Straight Story episode. I watched the first 1 to 3 episodes of Twin Peaks 3 or 4 different times at different stages in my life. One time was also with a very close friend who's like, "Oh, Phil, like, I love Twin Peaks, like, you're a movie guy." Like, he was, like, excited to share with me a great thing that I hadn't seen yet,
yeah,
and I was like, "Bro, I don't know about this."
and
So,
that was me.
it
It just hit
literally took
me.
me, like, to my 4th or 5th viewing
Yeah,
to, like, get it.
it just hit me at the wrong time, and I don't think my wife will ever like it. So, uh, so I'm like,
I know how that
I can
goes.
see I wasn't in the mood at the time, but I'm like, I can come back to this, and I just haven't yet. But it is something that I will have to go back to myself. But I think I will, and I do think that I will enjoy it, but I haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, no, it's really truly a beautiful world. The first 2 seasons of the show, while some people dunk on the second season, the first season is like 8 episodes, and they're all phenomenal. They were very tight, very purposeful, and then it was so successful that it got a second season that the networks are like, "Okay, that was a let's give you a full, like, 22 episode, like, show order," and they were just not ready for that, so but, like, the good episodes in season 2 are incredible, like, season 1 and season 2 are great, but then the movie, because he didn't really get to end the story the way he wanted, he's like, "Well, let's go back." They had some plans, but then what the movie ended up becoming was a bit of a prequel to the events. Or do you watched the first episode of Twin Peaks, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So for listeners who don't know, the Twin Peaks film Fire Walk with Me is like the last week in the life of Laura Palmer, whose death kind of kickstarts the whole thing. So the movie is like the last week in her life. And it is, man, it is honestly, I think in my review, I gave it 4.5 stars the first time I watched it. And I think anytime going forward, it'll be out of five. Like, I think it's one of the most like beautifully tragic
Mm,
things I've ever seen. I think Laura Palmer in our kind of pop culture generation is probably like the most tragic character, like almost kind of like on a Shakespearean level. But the
mm,
film is it's hard to watch, but it is also just very beautiful and compelling as well. But yeah, and then the new series is a whole nother thing. It is also very Twin Peaksy, very Lynchian, but it's not Twin Peaks in the same way that the first two seasons were. But it's an incredible continuation, and like it is a good continuation of some of the themes and characters from the first two seasons. But the first two seasons, in a lot of ways, was about like society and reckoning with some of like the Americana stuff. And then the new Twin Peaks is very much about like a tech saturated,
mm.
like post industrial, like the heart of America has kind of been hollowed out by industry that has failed or moved on to other places. Like it's so fascinating. But yeah, it's the best. Twin Peaks is the best.
So that's your favorite of his work is Twin Peaks.
I mean, I go back and forth. I think my two favorite films are probably Straight Story and Fire Walk with Me, Twin Peaks. But yeah, as like, what's my favorite thing that David Lynch did is probably like the universe of Twin Peaks because there's
Yeah,
also so much. Like,
right, right.
I love all of his movies, but they're all like 2 hours and done. Twin Peaks
Yeah,
is expansive, and there are books. There are Twin Peaks is just magic.
yeah. And like thematically, like it sounds like because again, I'm not as familiar with his work, but like even with Twin Peaks, you talked about and the movie being kind of like the prequel and dealing with death and loss uh and that darkness. And then I remember because I edited the episode with John Carroll Lynch, no
Hmm.
relation, but he was in uh he
I
did
just
a
texted with him today,
oh yeah,
actually.
he
Humble
did
brag.
he did David Lynch did a scene in there, did a bit in
Hmm.
there with Lucky, and that movie very much about like death and end of life. Um, is that something that like spread throughout all of Lynch's work?
I mean,
Are like
yes.
mortality and loss and death?
Well, it's kind of just the themes of life. He was a very introspective. That's maybe not even the right word. He was very much into the transcendental and
Mm,
like what the big questions. He was very much a fan of probing. He's very curious, and some viewers are frustrated by it. But yeah, a
mm,
big tenet of his work is the avoidance of answers.
yeah,
um but yeah, it's about just the whole of humanity. It's the good and the bad, the joy and the sorrow, the beauty and the love, and then the addiction and the loss and the abuse, and all of those things together. It's really the stuff of life.
yeah. Which is real and gritty and I I mean, I get it. I get that, and I get people not liking it too
But
because
then the good moments are not like saccharine or false. Like there is true beauty
yeah, yeah,
in this dark, messed up world where people can do the worst, most horrible things to each other. But then also there are people who are good and who put beauty out in the world and who take care of each other. Like it literally is like everything.
yeah, yeah. And I think, I mean, your audience knows you love that stuff, and I love that stuff too. But I do get like people who just want to go to movies and TV as like the mindless escape,
It
and
is not I mean,
it's not that.
well, and that's what's so cool about I mean, this is I guess the first half is David Lynn's Twin Peaks hour, but that's one of the very cool things about seasons 1 and 2 is because on its face it's kind of like a subversion of the soap opera. Like
Mm,
there are so many like everybody's sleeping with everybody and doing little scams and crimes and the cops and the bad guys and people falling in love, people falling out of love, like all of that stuff is there, but like it rings so much more true than your normal soap opera.
right, right. Yeah,
So I'd say give it a shot when you're ready. Because
yeah.
it's weird. It's weird.
No, and I will, and I'll gear up for it. I think there's there's probably something natural about this, but I do think like his passing will be the motivation I need to get back into it.
Yeah, and I mean, I would say if you're adventurous, for you, Blue Velvet might be a good like dipping your toe in because it is a story that's like relatively grounded, about darkness and mystery, very kind of neo noir type vibes, but then it also has some very Lynchian uh touches as
Mm.
well. And it ends on like I feel like in any other filmmaker's hands, the ending after all of the depravity that you go through in Blue Velvet, they're like what? Like how could like it's not a tacked on happy ending, but like it's so jarring with everything else. But it's that's another one I love. That'll probably be one I revisit here very soon.
Yeah. All right. Twin Peaks and Blue Velvet. I'll put them on the
Yeah,
list.
he was one of one. I'm not irregularly hit like because I'm such a fan of cinema in particular. Like it's sad when we lose people that have created or for people in various departments like who have taken a part in things that like move us deeply. But I don't remember the last time that the death of a creative
Mm.
person has affected me quite so much, man. Man, I cried a lot, and I'm glad that I have a job with a little bit of flexibility. Like if I was in a cubicle and I heard that news, that would be a mess.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, like Lynch, would you say, I mean, he makes your Mount Rushmore of directors.
I think he does. Like I've given my Mount Rushmore before of American directors, and he probably would have been the fifth, but I think he's earned his way in my book on that Mount Rushmore.
Like that. Like it.
Sorry, Michael Mann, you're right behind him.
He got knocked off.
He's only made like 8 or 10 movies.
Yeah.
But
Well,
David
that's
Lynch
the
hasn't made a ton either, actually, to be fair.
yeah, full length movies. I just was like when I saw the news, I like was just scrolling through his like IMDb, and I'm like, there's just so much stuff. Like it's not,
Most of that is shorts.
yes, most of it is shorts, but I'm like, okay, like this guy, he was prolific in his own right, even if
Yeah.
there's, whatever, a
Yeah, I would
handful of
say
movies, but
don't start with Inland Empire or Lost Highway.
okay, I will not. I promise. Twin Peaks and Blue Velvet are on the list. If they hit me in the right spot, then maybe I'll go a little bit deeper, but
Yeah. Yeah, he was really one of a kind. Um and he will be missed. And it's exciting now cuz I mean, he's been inspiring people for ages, but there are a few filmmakers now who are getting more success in making their things. Um who really do seem to be kind of not aping him, but taking things from him
mm,
into their own, I don't know. You can see that they're influenced by Lynch, but they very much have their own voices. So that is exciting to see. I'll also say that I really did appreciate the various forms of technology that connect us to like have such a communal moment together with other people
Mm.
who were as influenced or more so than myself. That was very special to have both in Discords, Instagram, Blue Sky, the other app that we still use occasionally. It was just nice to kind of celebrate his life together.
Yeah, when I actually, so the friend who had suggested that I watch Twin Peaks, I didn't realize I was, but I broke the news to him.
Oh, dang.
And I was like, "Crap, like I'm not the one to do this." Cuz like I
Trevor texted me like an hour or two after I had heard.
yeah, yeah. Cuz like this conversation is showing, like I don't have a great exposure or therefore a deep connection to him, but I knew that my friend did. And so I, like, texted him and he had not known, and I'm like, "Oh," like, I wanna
Like,
I
"Hey,
wanna
man,
be
sorry to hear about David Lynch." He's like, "What?"
I wanna be here for you, but also this I don't know this guy.
So, yeah, thanks for talking Lynch with me a little bit. I look forward to hear, what you think of, what you check
I
out.
will report back, yeah.
I'll say, if your wife didn't like Twin Peaks, definitely don't sit down with her and watch Blue Velvet, or do a little bit of research on Blue Velvet just to know what you're getting into if she.
I'm fairly certain it's not a Leah movie.
Yeah, I would say no. I don't know her that well, but I would say probably not.
Yeah.
So yeah, the big one here, we were like, okay, how do we want to cover this? But yeah, next 4 years are gonna be interesting, man.
That they are, and I thought I'm surprised already. So as we record, literally 2 days post inauguration, and, like, heading into the election and all that, like, I felt like I was in mentally, like, a decent place and wasn't that surprised by I felt like the election could go either way, so when he won, like, I wasn't really that surprised. Thought I was, like, mentally prepared, but just already the
Yeah.
inundating of news is like, "Oh, yeah, this is what
This is
that
what it
was
was
like.
like.
This
Yeah.
is what
Just
that
the
was."
nonsense. The harm and the nonsense.
Yeah, and yeah, I think it was I won't you're editing this, not me, so I, I'll save you some work, but I remember, like, that's part of the strategy too, because I
Yeah.
remember, like, in 2016 to 2020, some point in there, Steve Bannon said, like, "Our strategy is to flood the zone with ish," and, like, that's what they do. That's part of the strategy is just, like, here's, like, actual meaningful stuff that is harmful, but also a bunch of like sideshow circus stuff that we know the media is going to run with, but doesn't actually matter or affect anything. And like to work your way through all of that is like really difficult, taxing,
And it's
exhausting.
easy bait if you're like, for the content creators who like want to do good, they're like, here's all the things to be upset about. And it's like, look, not that those things aren't upsetting, but like maybe that's not the best place for our attention.
Right, right,
Like,
yeah,
not just for our mental health for one, but also for efficacy. Because yeah, exactly. Like the whole point is to get you worked up, real mad, and kind of
hmm,
all over the place. Meanwhile, they're making churches not safe places for people to be.
right, yeah. Yeah, and so I like when we were talking offline, we were kind of I think we posed it in the question of like how do we survive the next 4 years or like how are we going to handle and not I don't think literally you and I uh, we don't it will be easy for us to literally survive, but like how do we cope over the next 4 years? And I came up with an actual answer, Phil, and it's super easy actually.
Okay.
You ready? It's actually Sunday school answer. You know how in Sunday school the answer is always Jesus?
Uh-huh.
Well, I think that's the answer is Jesus, and not in like a just like well, pray our way through it. Prayer, good, important. I think it will be helpful, but like when Jesus was his ministry was local and it was personal. And I think like the federal government for a while has been too big, like and like the president is kind of just always been this sideshow. And I think we focus all of our attention to this federal level when our our attention needs to be more localized and more personal. There's only so much that I can do about Donald Trump being the president, but I have neighbors, churches, communities that I can have a larger impact on. And so I think I have a couple bullet points, and maybe we can just, I'll kind of list them off, and we can go wherever you want with that. But when I say Jesus, what I mean, I think, is to log off of the internet a little more frequently than we used
I
to.
do think, yeah, that the watching our media diets, because I mean a lot of people are talking about this, and I think rightly so, like finding the balance of being
Hmm.
informed, but also like not, because like you said, it's literally part of their strategy to be informed so that you can be ready to like do good to one another, but also, man, like the local focus is where we are. Like
Well,
I'm
and
not
yeah,
all around the world.
and I think those two are obviously connected, like logging off and being locally focused. Because, like, if you want to chase down every falsehood that shows up online, or every stupid thing Donald Trump says, or someone, in his
Because
orbit.
it's literally going to be nonstop.
Right. And you're not, and who are you winning over with those online arguments pointing to that truth? Like, you're going to get the likes from the people who already agree with you, and
If they're brave enough.
if they're brave enough, and you might get some comments in from detractors who tell you to like cope harder. But like, you're not actually changing anyone's mind there. But
No,
in
that's face to face
Right,
stuff.
that's happening, more locally and face to face. The other reason why I say Jesus is because, with this like Christian nationalist movement that is surrounding Donald Trump,
Yeah.
the funny is the wrong word. The
What?
I
Yeah.
the ironic, the thing about Christian nationalism is it has nothing to do with Jesus.
Yeah.
And like, as an example, go and listen to Franklin Graham's prayer at the inauguration. It is littered with scripture, but he mentions Jesus once, and it's when he says, "In your son's name, Jesus, we pray. Amen." And that's it. Because this like move to grab power in the name of Jesus, that's the only role that Jesus plays, is they stamp his name on it. And so like, I write over on Substack, and I'm just going through a series starting with the Beatitudes, but like going through the Sermon on the Mount. And because this is so the opposite of
Yeah. The
Trump
as an
policies.
aside, yeah, I think we've mentioned this before. The Sermon on the Mount is where I've been spending the time where I am like deeply in the Bible, which has not been loads and loads recently, but the time that I'm spending in the Bible when I'm like really going, okay, like I want to engage deeply with this. It has been a lot of the Sermon on the Mount. And it's like, this is so clear. Like the people who taught me this, like, where are they?
Yeah. And you
I think
can't,
that's a very good place to focus.
because you can't make an argument for Donald Trump, for for his policies, and appeal to Jesus. If
Yeah.
you can use the Bible,
Not in an
just
honest way. Yeah.
you can use the Bible just the way that like slaveholders use the Bible, by twisting it and contorting it, but you can't use Jesus. Like, there just isn't a connection. And so I think, like, for the first Trump thing, I was, frankly, I wanted to change people's minds. I wanted to convince them, and I I'm not trying to do that anymore, because I don't think it's going to happen. But rather than like chase down all of the lies and the falsehoods and the craziness that's being put out there, I want to like just be promoting a positive vision of what the kingdom of Jesus actually is supposed to look like, not this misshapen thing that they stamp Jesus's name on and call it America or Christianity
Sure.
or whatever.
Yeah, the longer that it goes, the whole proud Christian nationalist, the guys and gals who like proudly wear that label, it's like, yeah, this is like there's nothing Christian about this at all.
No, and like they'll do their best to try to tell you it is, but like it's craziness. Like there's a popular, I mean, Meg Basham. I don't know if that means if she means
Oh.
anything to you, but
Well, I mean, no, but yeah, no, I know who she is,
yeah.
and
So
I don't envy her when
she,
this is all said and done, and she has to answer for this.
like she was like on Twitter talking about how the point of the Good Samaritan wasn't for us to literally love everyone. It was a story told to show that we can't do that and we need a savior. And I'm like, what? Well, like, where did you get that from?
And these are the people who telling us that like we're deranged. It's
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's if you engage, especially online, like you will literally go nuts. You will be depressed or literally go out of your mind.
Yeah. And so like again to go back, don't. I think for your own mental health, even with people that you know. I think certainly like with trolls or grifters or like the big names like a Meg Basham, like you don't need to do that. But even with
The
like
block and mute button are very effective.
yeah, but even with the people that you know, like I cuz I will share a thing online every now and then, and if like somebody comments on it, I will either ignore it or take it to like DMs and be like, "Hey, do you actually want to talk about this?" Because like we can sit
That's like
down,
the digital face to face.
yeah, we can actually talk about it. And if they live close enough to me, I'm like, "Hey, let's grab lunch." Like, and we can actually face to face about this because then we can actually like have real discussion rather than perform a discussion online for one
Yeah.
another.
No, I think that that's healthy, and I hope that we're able to. Like,
Yeah.
I am not a pessimist at all. I'm concerned, but I also think like we are resilient. We've gone through a lot of like this country has been through a lot, and like humanity has been through a lot. So this is not going to be good, but I don't think it will be the end.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I'm just not looking forward to it.
And I think I'm with you. I think I agree and share with all that sentiment. I'll say, like, even if it is the end of whatever,
Sure.
this is where I like go back to like what are the foundational beliefs and foundational values that I actually hold.
Mhm.
And like I think loving God and loving our neighbor are those things, which again,
Agreed.
I can only do personally. I can't do
Yeah.
that in any meaningful way online. Um, I I'm trying to be better at this, but uh, like I said to my wife, really I said it to myself, but she was in my presence. Uh, that like because I was feeling some anxiety at one point. I think as we got like the week prior to the election, was starting to have some anxiety, and I said, you know what, like if we knew every one of our I live in a small neighborhood of like I don't know 40 houses maybe. Like if we got to know all 40 families that live in our neighborhood, like that would have a bigger direct impact on my life than whatever the president is going to do. And so you seem to doubt that. Feel free to push back.
No, no, I'm just trying to follow your logic.
So
You probably
like
would.
that
Probably.
that personal that's what I want to pursue,
Yeah.
right? Is those relationships that day in day out can have an impact on me rather than certainly the the policies put in place over the
Yeah,
next 4
yeah,
years
there's gonna be a
will
lot of destruction, but
yeah.
also, like, we've talked about the whole deconstruction and reconstruction kind of our faith, like, maybe this will be a little bit of deconstruction to hopefully pave way for like,
Mhm.
we've talked a
Well,
lot, and
yeah.
you've interviewed folks on your Substack and
Mhm.
audio show and your previous shows, like, we there are a lot of things that need to be fixed. So
Yeah.
maybe if some of this crap gets run into the ground, there'll be room for us to fix it locally and nationally.
And to call out like the two straight white guys in the room, you and I, like we probably don't have a ton, you and I, to worry about, but like we do, there are immigrants, LGBTQ people who I think their fear over the next 4 years is more founded than mine.
Well, yeah, the people who I like you said, the people who you know and have close relationships with in your neighborhood. Yeah, like I'm thinking exactly about that. Like,
Well, that
it,
exactly. What am I going to do to protect those vulnerable
yes,
people through my tweets?
sure,
But if I know them and I can supply physical needs for them or be an embodied person in their life who lends emotional support, like that will have a bigger
sure.
impact than me
Sharing
me
stuff online.
yelling about it on Facebook.
Agreed. No, completely. Facebook, woof. Like,
Remember that
if
place?
I didn't have like professional contacts that I'm trying to stay in front of,
Mm.
like, I don't even think I'd keep Facebook at this point just to like have my extended family see pictures of the kids. I'd just text them. But
Right,
like,
right.
if
You're
professionally I wasn't trying to keep up with people on Facebook, it would be donezo.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, it's a hellscape for sure. Um, the last thing that I'll bring up um, is
Man, you came prepared. You're like Sunday school teacher Dave today.
with the Jesus thing again, is moral clarity. I think, like again, I the first Trump presidency, I and many others, we're still trying to like tiptoe around
Yeah.
the thing, you know?
Or
Eh,
like be like, "Hey guys, like isn't this weird? Like do you guys not really see that some of
yeah,
this is not cool?"
yeah. And I want to, and I think a lot of what I'm saying, it like has to be done holding different things in tension, right? Because I want to have a moral clarity over the next 4 years. I'm not going to pretend like, because I think what I hoped really from 2016 to 2020 was like, we'll make it through these 4 years and then Donald Trump will disappear. Well, that didn't happen. And frankly, like I think the spirit of Trump, whatever that means, will like live on beyond him.
Well, yeah, the things that have been enabled, the people and policies and all that stuff that were awakened and enabled, like that's not just gonna
Yeah.
vanish.
So like I want to be able to have like real meaningful personal relationships with people who are Trump supporters. I have those people in my life.
Sure.
And but I also don't want to like pretend like Trump isn't who he is or that he's not embodying the things that he's embodying. That Jesus wouldn't be at a rally holding mass deportation signs. He wouldn't do that. And so I'm not going to pretend like
Hot take, Dave.
I'm not going to pretend like it's a Christ-like thing for that to happen. Um, Elon Musk uh, doing a Nazi salute. I'm not going to pretend
My
like
gosh.
he was just sending his heart out to people. Like I saw what I
I
saw and I know what I saw. And so I'm going to name these things. And if that clarity like upsets people, I'm sorry about that, but, like, I'm gonna try to maintain that moral clarity, but also, like, press into those relationships even when it's stressful and
yeah.
tenuous
No, I think
because
that's helpful.
I'm holding on to that moral clarity.
Yeah, no, that's something that I have thought a lot about as well. Like, especially the ones that you already have. Like, you don't want to go provoking, but like both familially, relationally, and societally, like we I don't think the answer is to okay, like cut everybody out of your life. And I'm not saying that um if you're in like an unstable, unhealthy thing, stay there. I'm not saying that at all. But like scientifically, experts have shown that like the thing that does change people's minds is not posting or sharing
Mm,
podcasts or posts is like, is that relationship? So I'm not saying like we all need to do this in all the circumstances, but like the way that people come out of that, especially the quote unquote good people who have just gotten caught up in this, is through those relationships and that moral clarity, like asking questions like, hey, like
mhm.
this is the reality. How do you understand that, or how do you support that? Like, what about this appeals to you? Like things like that that are not maybe the most comfortable,
Yeah.
but like people are supporting these things,
Mhm.
and it doesn't help them or the people they're harming to pretend like reality isn't.
Right. And I think to that point, like even leading in vulnerability, right? Like you can say, and I've seen plenty of people say, well, if you support this, you're part of the problem. And like that's one way to phrase it. Another way to phrase it,
Yeah, how
especially
winsome and convincing for the other side.
right,
Yeah.
right. And like that's a cool thing to shout online, right? Because you're rallying your troops. But in interpersonal relationships, you can kind of say the same thing, but in a loving way, which is when I let's take the Musk thing. When I see that, this is how I feel. That's what it does. This is what seeing that does to me, right? It makes me nervous. It makes me feel fear and afraid. Like what does that do in you when you see it? Like invite that response in. So you're exposing yourself. This is how, hearing this type of rhetoric or seeing that type of action or this policy or whatever, like this is what it brings up in me. What does it bring up in you? And like if they're like, well, I'm excited about it. How tell me how you got there. Like,
Because I feel like, yeah, there's a lot of people who are in that weird tension of they, for whatever reasons, uh, compromised or maybe well-meaning, they've gotten on the bus, but now the bus is it's never been a good bus to be on, but now it's like full bore, transparently, like in horrendous territory, but they've intertwined their identities so much to be like, this is where I belong. I think that things like that kind of are maybe the only way.
yeah,
It's like because psychologically they're attached to those things.
yeah. Yeah. So I think like the tension over the next 4 years for me is like I want to be uh, uh, to whatever extent I can be, like a voice and a presence to those who are vulnerable in this type of administration. I want to not just be seen as an advocate for them, I want to be one. So I want to like walk alongside them. And then on the other side, I think to those who are supporters of Trump and his administration, and this is like I'm still working on this. This is a conviction point, but actually, Caleb Campbell, who wrote "Disarming Leviathan," he's the one who planted this seed.
Hopefully, a one day future guest here working
He
on that.
he planted this seed in me. Um, like my flesh wants to be fully stocked and ready to say, "I told you so." That like when the Trump supporters in my life are either come to see the light or are just faced with you can't look away from this thing.
It's like, oh dang, my guy did a Nazi salute behind the presidential podium.
Right.
Well, I guess I'm
I what I want to do is
yeah.
be like, I told you this was coming. But what the spirit is working on me in is to be the person that Trump supporters can come to and be like, how'd
Oh
I miss
dang.
this?
Yeah.
Like Dave, I know that Dave has disagreed with me over this time, but maybe he won't judge me too harshly if I come to him with some of these new doubts and questions that I'm having. Like, can I set myself up over the next 4 years to be that person for someone? And if all I'm doing is shouting online, that's not going to do it.
Yeah.
But if I'm pushing into tough relationships and having hard conversations and still showing up even when it's uncomfortable, then maybe I make myself available for that type of work.
No, I agree. I need to read that book, and I tried to have him on like right when it came out, and it just didn't work schedule wise. So haven't connected with him for a while. That seems like I haven't read it. I don't know. I'm not familiar with any of his previous work, but that seems like a very valuable and important resource.
It is, yeah. I would definitely say to recommend it, or I would definitely say to recommend it. But
I was gonna let that slide. Dave says to recommend this book.
So whether you've read it or not, just go recommend it to people.
Say
No,
Dave told me to recommend this, so here you go.
I am recommending to check out Disarming Leviathan. He's got a podcast too, by the same name. Plenty of episodes to listen to, great interviews. But his story is a really powerful one. But yeah, I think the work that he's doing and encouraging others to do definitely worth looking into.
Nice. Well, before we get to the shout outs, there is one other piece of tentative business.
Mm, mm, mm.
We are not prophets or fortune tellers, but the date of recording here is the 22nd of January. This coming Sunday, we both have games that we will hopefully both win. And then if we have another Philly Kansas City Super Bowl, what do we want to do here?
Yeah, we were trying to think of ways to like spice it up. What is it, 2 years
It's
ago?
2 or
No,
3, I don't even know.
2022, three
That
years
was the
ago.
first one
Well, this would be
of
the
the
third.
back-to-backs.
Yeah,
This is our
so
4th.
two Super Bowls ago,
Yeah.
right? Uh, but anyway, we did a little wager then. Um,
That was before you were, like, super affiliated with us, right? Or is that
yeah,
as you were beginning to be?
no,
'Cause I
well,
think you had your own show, like, we both had our own shows, and it was Substance versus,
the
The
gospel
Gospel
according to,
According to.
yeah. Um, so we did a little one there. I have not thought of anything much better. So if you've got something, I'm ready to hear it. But I do think uh, that the assuming an Eagles Chiefs Super Bowl, that the uh, the winner gets Super Bowl merch purchased for them
Mhm.
by the loser, and the loser has to we have to like share some video
We'll
in
do a
the other
shout
team's
out because I mean,
merch
you
or
still
whatever.
have you have your are you releasing regular audio on your Substack? I know I've listened to interviews on there.
No, I've done a
It's
couple, but not
irregular
regularly.
audio? Okay.
I'm yeah, I'm written stuff weekly and then kind of audio stuff
Well,
when I
for me
can.
then, I'll do a shout out for you and your Substack on the show, and then maybe just on your next Substack at the beginning or end, you can just laud the Kansas City Chiefs and the Substance podcast.
That sounds good. I'll make that happen.
I've been thinking, it's like, should we add anything? Should we up the ante? That would be very exciting, just period. If it's another like Eagles Chiefs, like that would just be fun. Um,
And I mean, it'd be nice to get that redemption too.
well, I mean, I mean, theoretically, I could understand that position, but we do have to beat the Bills. Honestly, no disrespect, whoever wins your game, I'm less worried about
No,
than the Bills. So
honestly, I get that. Like right now, the Eagles are the Vegas betting favorite to win the Super Bowl, but I think it's only because they are more likely to make it to the Super Bowl than either I bet when after this Sunday, if the assuming the Eagles are in the Super Bowl, whether it's the Chiefs or the Bills, I bet the AFC team becomes the favorite at that point.
yeah,
They just can't make with 4 teams left, they can't make the Chiefs or the Bills the favorite because
because that's going to be a contentious game.
right.
And I mean, oh man, it's gonna. I would love to see, like, if because everybody's data's all out there anyway. I would love to see like the average like heart rate of Kansas City during that time, because that's gonna be a hard one. I think.
Yeah.
Like, I think we got the best team in the league. I love our guys. I love our leadership, but this is gonna be the hard one.
Yeah. I I do think it will be. I think the Eagles match up well against the Chiefs. I think our
I do
defense is
too.
better now than it was 2 years ago, and the offense is basically the same. So
I like the little football corner we just did, and I didn't feel out of my depth. I've been watching a lot more football the last couple years.
also, I just said the offense is mostly the same, which is true, but Saquon Barkley is one big difference on that offense from
I
2
don't know
years
enough,
ago.
but I did love watching the game on Sunday
It was
where,
fun.
like, the last quarter was in the snow. That was very
The
exciting.
snow games are always fun to watch. According to the players, much more fun to watch than
I
play
w
in.
Man, you're being paid so much money, you're in the postseason with all that stress, and you're slipping and sliding around. That has got to be just nerve-wracking.
I yeah. I think because of how much money is in the NFL, all of them should play in domes. Just because like
The
from a
elements.
just from a fan point of view, watching so like Buffalo, Kansas City, they've played in Buffalo a couple times over the years. Like watching that game in the snow as not a fan of either team, so much fun. But to like if the Eagles had lost to the Rams in the
Because of,
snow,
like, you slide and trip and fumble the ball, you're
yeah,
just like, "Ah!"
right. Then it's like, no, why didn't we
That's
build
not
a
a
dome?
skill thing, that's a snow thing, yeah.
Our owner's a billionaire. Why don't we have a roof on this thing?
Slap a dome on that bad
Yeah.
boy. Um, cool, well, I hope we do have another, um, Philly KC Super Bowl, and then I hope I get another shirt from you, that'd be great.
Nope, you owe me. You owe me. So
Oh, and honestly, like, it would be just for this purposes, in case anybody locally hears this, I absolutely wanna destroy Philly, but I would not like, that would be the best case scenario if we lost.
you've got one in the barrel. So we'll be watching. No, so we'll be playing for the shout out.
Okay, shout outs. You had one ready. I'm trying to go like, what have I watched? What have I read that is worthy of a show? Okay, I'll say I am less than 50% done, but a good chunk of the way, maybe like 30-ish percent. Need to check my audiobooks. Sharon McMahon's The
Mm,
Small and the Mighty. Also, for times like this,
yeah,
really good book. Have you listened or read or
I
I'm sure
haven't.
you've heard of the
Yes,
Sharon Says So account.
yes, I'm familiar with
Very
who she is, but
compelling, intelligent, very kind and winsome. Um, really educator. She does a lot of different stuff, but really, I think she's like been deemed or taken on like the America's history teacher role. And she's great. We got to meet her and spend a little time with her when she was in Kansas City for a Casey Public Library event, along with her book. My wife kind of organizes some of the KC chapter of her little
mm,
group here. But yeah, it's a wonderful book. Stories about how just like what you were talking about, like the people who where they are, who dig in, who are committed, who end up over time because of their ethics and their care and their love and their work end up actually shaping history. And
mm.
it's a very touching book. And then I'll say what else? Um, hmm. I had another. You go if you
All
want.
right,
Or
I've actually. So I got three for you. Ready for this?
whoa.
I
Okay.
all of them came to me while we were recording, but I jotted them down here. So I've got a band, a podcast, and a book. Uh,
Okay.
we were talking about bands and how we still listen to the same music we did from 20 years ago. So I recently stumbled upon a band who is making music today, but sounds like the bands I listened to in high school.
I love
And
that.
they are called Hot Mulligan.
Okay.
They're like that. They are like they're a Midwest emo band. I don't know where they're from, but that's like the genre is the Midwest emo. Um, the lead singer's voice, I could see be great. It could be grating for some people, but I'm into it. So Hot Mulligan is the band. Podcast is Sons of Patriarchy. Have you caught any of that?
No, I haven't listened yet, but I've seen you and several of my mutuals talk about it.
Yeah. So it kind of is covering Doug Wilson, who, for the uninitiated, is a pastor out in Moscow, Idaho, who's very much like
Kind of the
into
worst.
kind of the worst. The he's in like the Reformed tradition,
Ugh,
uh,
ish.
ish. Yeah, I don't
He's a
want to like.
guy who, if there aren't like professionally produced documentaries about, there will be.
So he literally ordained himself and created his own denomination.
It's
So
real bad.
like that
And like
actually happened.
so much documentation. I mean, yeah, I don't even want to get. He's very demonstrably and on the record very bad.
And if you're like, well, why do I want to? If you just heard about Douglas Wilson for the first time, you're like, I don't want to get sucked into this bad pastor, then fine, like don't listen. But also, Pete Hegseth, who was tagged to be the Secretary of Defense for Donald Trump, he goes to a church that is in the Douglas Wilson denomination. So he's like in that orbit. So if you're curious what kind of Christian nationalists are
Jeez.
around Trump, it's this kind. So you can check out Sons of Patriarchy. Uh, it's a uh, it's a well produced, well researched show. I almost said it was like good,
It's like a
which it
true
is.
crime show, like in the religion and spirituality world.
And then on a lighter note, so we went like light to heavy, back to light. Did you read The Giver when you were a kid,
Did
like
not.
elementary school? Well, you should, Phil. But I recently found out, I never knew that The Giver is the first of a series of books. And so I read or had The Giver read to me when I was like in fifth
I
grade.
did not know there were more.
And so I reread it, and I'm actually reading through the series right now. And it's just a great fiction story, well written. It's beautiful. So you can check out those. Those are my substantive shout outs.
Um, I'll give this with a caveat because I know that different people have different thoughts. Not a caveat like don't go see it, but I was just checking my letterbox because I was like, I know I've seen some really good stuff lately. Um, the rollout is wild. Actually, I'll give two. The rollout of this is wild, but I think it's starting to be in more markets. But The Brutalist was a staggering film. Very epic, very much about America, the good and the bad. I was not prepared. There were a number of like very explicit scenes. I don't really research movies anymore before I go see them like I did when I was more in the fundamentalist circle. But
Right.
there were a couple things that I was not prepared for, but whatever. Staggering movie. Like I don't think there has been an epic in that way in quite some time. 3.5 hours, had an intermission. It's about an architect who immigrates to America and does the American dream, the good and the bad, and it's about art and commerce and power and dreams and what needs to be done to actualize them, etc. It's a very it's a lot, but there was so much that just felt like transcendent cinema. If you're up for it and you're able to see it, it's there's a lot of very good stuff there. And then the other one that is bafflingly hard to see is Sing Sing. If I haven't shouted that out
Hmm.
on the show before, Dave, are you at all familiar with Sing Sing? I know you're like you enjoy films, so Sing Sing is based on a true story of the prison, the very popular prison, and their art program.
Okay. This was the one that was like released in prison
Yeah, they're actually
or premiered in
they are
prison.
showing it
Okay.
in correctional facilities, and very humorously, many people have made jokes that they're going to try to get arrested so that they can actually see this movie that is very obnoxious. The rollout is so bad. It's an A24 movie,
Right.
and it's an awards darling, and a lot of markets they're only playing it at like 2 p.m. and 9 p.m. when they're like, hey, I'd like
Hmm.
to see this, but it's they're making it hard. I got to see a screener here in Kansas City a while back, but I think it's now finally starting to come out more widely. But it's a wonderfully
Hmm.
gorgeous just movie about humanity and people whose humanity had been taken from them, rediscovering their humanity through art and community. And it will definitely be winning a lot of awards, and it's very much worth seeing with no caveats at all.
Love that.
I look forward to checking out that do you have an album in particular from your guys? and this is maybe for me. Maybe I'll leave this in. Maybe cut it out. But
Honestly, so there are
You'll Be
3
Fine. Why Would I Watch? Pilot.
hot. Let me bring them up. I think those 3, they're all great, to be
Okay.
honest.
Well, I'll start with Pilot.
Yeah, just start at pilot and work your way through.
I'm listening to the new posthumous Mac Miller album and enjoying it,
I haven't
but I
yet.
haven't finished it yet.
I haven't checked that one out yet. All right, dude. Well, thanks for having me on. It's late. It's getting late over here
Yeah, it
on
is.
the East Coast.
You're
So
driving your truck tomorrow
I do. I gotta.
and all
So
your school. Well, thanks, man. It was good catching up. So that was my conversation with editor Dave. Always good to have him back on the show. Let us know. Editor Dave, myself, and my former host Trevor, we're talking about doing another topic toss up here before too long. So if you want to suggest some topics, I'm sure we'll get into faith, politics, culture, things like that. But if there's anything specific you'd like us to consider covering, shoot us an email over at thesubstancepod@gmail.com. If you have any feedback for us, that's where you can email us, or you can send us a voice note that we can play as a voicemail on the show. We've had a few of those recently, so we always love hearing from you guys directly. So if you want to just go to the voice notes in your phone, record it, you can also email us there at thesubstancepod@gmail.com. Sorry again for the unplanned hiatus. Not planning on doing that again here. Like I said, got some good episodes in the can. Hopefully, just getting on a better schedule here. So look out on the feed for our episode coming next week with my friend Marta Georgievich on Abbas Kiarostami's Taste of Cherry. Marta is got a wonderful feed. I think we've shouted her out on the Instagram channel before, but somebody who loves cinema. Really good insights. I had a wonderful conversation with her, and longtime listeners if anybody remembers, actually, I'll say this: if anybody remembers the significance of this episode in this movie, email me and I'll send you something special. I'll send you a book or a movie that somebody sent us before. I got a big stack of stuff that I need to donate. So if you know the significance of that one, send it to me. But that'll be a really fun episode. Check for that. Check your feeds for that next week. So I've been your host, Philip Marinello, and we will see you next time on The Substance.
Speaking of asides, you can leave this in or not, but with Millennial Sopranos account, I think it's Relevant Seinfeld on Instagram. I
Okay.
haven't seen him do it in a while, but he was doing this bit where when somebody would die, like it'd be like when David Lynch passed, like John Lynch is a football player, or
Oh,
was. He's the 49ers GM now. But it would be the scene from Seinfeld where I don't even remember what happens, but Elaine says something to you. Have to take this out now, actually, because I'm realizing I don't remember the
that's the
details.
best way to share a joke.
Yes. Anyway, I'll send you the meme afterwards. It's funny. Trust me.
Take my word for it. It's hilarious. You will be laughing. David Lynn's Twin Peaks Hour.